Good evening, everyone. My name's Shane, and I'm a recovered addict.
Oh, Shane.
And for anyone in here, please, whatever you do, do not mistake the word recovered with well. Yeah, because I am a sick individual, I really am, and also happen to know many other people who renounce themselves that are recovered, and and they're quite sick as well. And I'm well enough today to know how sick I am, and I'm going to explain to you quickly like why I announced myself as recovered, and it's quite simple as this really. When I first rolled up to Cocaine Anonymous, beaten, busted and broken, and like absolutely unable to stop doing the things that I didn't want to be doing. Luckily for me, a man who was armed with the facts about himself and the solution that's in this big book explained to me what it was that I suffered with, and he spoke about what got me first was a spiritual malady, and he said, and I didn't really understand what a spiritual malady was, and he said like his natural state of being was restless, irritable, discontent, like in short, bored, pissed off and ungrateful. And I went, yeah, you don't have to explain that twice, that's me. That my very earliest memory. I've had counsellors, therapists and numerous other people try and tell me why it is I do what I do and why it is I feel the way I feel. And none of them had said that, and he said it in 3 words, and he had me. I was like, damn, yeah, that's me, that's how I feel. And it was like a revelation. And then he went on to say about the next part of my illness is about the obsession of my mind. I've got a mind that lies to me, and it tells me this time it'll be different. This time I get out of jail, bearing in mind I've been in there 15 times before and done the same thing on the 15 occasions that I got out, and went and had a drink and then ended up smoking crack and heroin and blah, blah, blah. But this time when I get out, my mind says it's going to be different. We're just going to have 2 Stellas. And I believe it. It's like the best idea I've ever had. I'm like, yeah, I relate to that. He said, and the physicality, the phenomenon of craving, like when I have one and I can't stop, like I convince myself I'm going to go to the pub, I'm going to have 2 pints, or I'm going to go to the crack house or wherever it is and just have, just get 2 and 1, and I end up having as many as I'm having, and I related to all 3 of those things, yeah. Since embarking on the 12-step journey, since, working this program continuously a day at a time in my life, I think I'm like just 3 years, 2 months or something like that, clean and sober. Cool. And I can honestly say to you, yeah, with my hand on my heart, never once have I felt restless, irritable and discontent again. I felt sad, I felt lonely, I felt insecure, I felt every human emotion that's possible to feel, but I've never woke up any morning wanting to die and wishing that I didn't wake up in the morning. There's no sense of impending calamity, it's just gone from me. And as a result of that, I've had no obsession in my mind, apart from a few occasions where my mind said to me it might be a good idea to go and have 2 pints, and then before I've even had the thought, it's like, are you crazy? You'll be smoking crack within the hour, the defence against the first one. So as a result of the no obsession, there's going to be no allergy. And I don't know about you, like, that's about as fucking recovered as I want to be. So I didn't come here for my selfishness, I didn't come here for my dishonesty, I didn't come here for none of that stuff. I stay here and I try and work on that stuff. But like the book says, and I'm going to talk about the book, and if that bothers you, I'm not one of them ones that sits at home and studies this big book so I can come here and impress you, because I don't need to impress anybody anymore. I really don't. I have enough self-worth and self-esteem today that it really doesn't matter what you think about me. If you don't like me, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to be all right with that. And my book tells me that today I have solved the drink-and-drug problem. And that's the only reason I come to Cocaine Anonymous for. What I've gained since being here is like far outweighs anything I could have ever imagined. And I just want to say as well, like, if you're in this room, and you've got a sponsor and you've worked the 12 steps and you're embarking on this journey, that's great. I'm really happy for you, but I ain't here for you. Yeah, and if you're one of them selfish people that I really don't like, right, that come to meetings and like to try and get something, I've got to explain to me that, Shane, you're a selfish and self-centered arsehole. Yeah, he said, you have taken all your life. He said, the only thing to get at a meeting is these words: get a sponsor, work the steps, have a spiritual awakening, and go and help others. Yeah, I heard that message when I got here. I don't need to come and hear another message. I am the message today. It says in my big book, it says in the foreword to the 4th edition, it says, AAs, CAs come to meetings to share experience, strength and hope with each other in order to stay sober. So it's imperative, it's what I do in order for me to stay sober and to help other alcoholics. Yeah, that's why I'm here. I don't come here just to listen to other people's stuff. What I do is I come in with an attitude of giving. And in the giving, and don't get me wrong, I get loads. But that's not why I turn up here for. When we get them people in meetings and they say, oh, we don't want to hear war stories and all that. Do you know what? Have you ever had a fucking newcomer say they don't want to hear a war story? No, it's only the people that are sitting in here that still want to try and hear something. It's like, and I'm glad that I got schooled and directed in the way that, of what this illness really means to me. And, so I'm just here for the new guy. And if you're new and you don't know how you ended up here, I can guarantee you didn't end up here by mistake. It wasn't good out there that you decided to roll into a meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. That wasn't my experience. And I'm going to explain to you in like the book says, in a general way, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And what it was like, it was pitiful. It really was, man. It was absolute carnage. The spiritual malady was rife in me from my very earliest memory. And then I remember about 4 or 5 not fitting in with my family. when you don't feel cool enough for the cool kids, like, and you're too cool for the uncool kids, and you're not very good at sport, and you're a little bit chubby, and you've got second-hand clothes on, and beat up old trainers and all that, and it really sort of become really prevalent to me when I got into recovery, and I take my daughter out, right, and we go to the park, and we pull up in the car, and she just run to the other kids and just get right involved. And I think, wow, that's amazing, man. Because I couldn't do that. I'd be sitting in the car all the way there thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen? How many people are going to be there? Oh my God, they're going to be looking at my trainers. Oh my God, they're all going to say that I'm fat. So I'm riddled with fear before I've even got anywhere near where it is where I'm supposed to be going to enjoy myself. And that was my story throughout the rest of my life. And I found substances when I was about 10, 11 years old. It started off with solvents. And in the book it says about men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol, drugs, whatever it is that you did. And that wasn't my experience at first, yeah? I can honestly say, man, I just fucking hated the way I felt. And anything that I'd done, it just stopped me feeling like that, because throughout my whole drinking and using career, right, it never made me happy, not once. And I didn't know that. I believed that it did until I come into recovery and I actually realised what true happiness was. What it done for me is it made me escape my reality. It explained why I took so many different substances in so many different ways and combinations and everything to try and achieve what it was that I was searching for. And what it was that I was searching for is the almighty power of God. And I didn't even know that until I got here and you guys explained that to me. And I'm going to talk about God, and if that scares you, then the using clearly wasn't like mine. Because I swear to God, when I got here and someone said to me, will you pray, do you believe in the power greater than yourselves? I was like, is that it? No problem, let's go. Do you know, I thought, what, that rather than smoke crack? And so yeah, I had no problem with that God idea, and and I got no shame either in announcing that. And I don't call it God because I choose to call it God. In my big book, it says on the top of page 59, there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. When I try and follow the clear-cut directions like my sponsor showed me to do in that big book, I don't just cherry-pick the bits that I like and take out the bits that I don't like because it offends me, or I still care what it is that you think about me, so I won't mention that God word because I'm going to fit in with a cool crowd in CA that says, oh, let's not talk about God. And for me, it's all about God, because without that power, I wouldn't be here today. My daughter wouldn't have a dad, and my dad wouldn't have a son. And my sister wouldn't have a brother, and numerous other stuff. So I found substances about 11, and then I progressed through them really quickly. And I wasn't one of them ones that kind of like started off slowly and all that. I started off sniffing glue and solvents in a shitty run-down block of garages in Tin Town in Luton. Do you know what I mean? And it kind of ended up at the same sort of place, bin sheds and stairwells and stuff like that towards the end. There was no nice bits of sniffing, like high-class fucking cocaine and champagne and all over the world. I wasn't one of them ones. There was no pub stuff, there was no clubbing stuff, there was none of that whatsoever. By the time I was 18, I found heroin. And just to, because what it is for me, right, it's about my thinking, yeah, it's like the real problem here. And I just took the depths of my selfishness, 18 years old. I was with this girl at the time, right, and she was, because I do that as well, I take women hostage, do you know what I mean, and I can still do that in recovery today, unfortunately, and I try my best not to, but, and I met this beautiful girl, bless her, and she'd come from Scotland, right, her whole life had been absolutely decimated by heroin addiction, right, her mum and her brother and her sister were in Scotland. The dad had just killed himself. The brother and the sister were like just banging trouble with heroin, and she'd moved from Scotland with her mum and her little nephew to get away from all that stuff. Now I'm with her, so I know how bad heroin is, right? I'm about 16 when I'm with this woman, taking every substance under the sun every single day. There wasn't a day that I didn't use from like 11 until like 38. And if I wasn't using it was because I was incarcerated or in hospital and I couldn't get it, but I was obsessing and wanting to know and thinking of ways how I could get it. And one of my friends, bless him, it's funny because I always say this in my share, and he died of this illness 6 months ago, and I keep forgetting, and I go to say it in my share, and then every time I say it, I remember like this guy, and he's no longer with us today, God rest his soul. And he's told me that he tried heroin, right? Now, it's the insanity of just this, regardless of everything else. As soon as he said it, there wasn't no, oh, heroin's really bad, don't you? It was like, next time you get some, come and see me. Right there's a problem. Normal people don't think like that. And lo and behold, 2 days later, he turned up to the flat that I shared with this woman, right? It makes me sick even thinking about it. And he come in and I started smoking his heroin, and what I will say is that one did for me what I was trying to find in all the other substances, the puff, the alcohol, the whiz, the trip, whatever it was I was taking all throughout my teenage years. And this woman, bless her, she walked in, right? And she looked at me with absolutely disgust, and rightly so. And I looked at her and thought, what's wrong with you? See, like my selfishness and absolute inability to see how my actions affect you, and not only that, I'm going to blame you for how I feel as a result of what I think you're thinking. Check that out for insanity, right? And thus that relationship didn't go too well, but what I've done is, I left that woman with 2 children. I discarded 2 children. I was smoking crack very quickly and injecting very quickly after that, and I was in and out of jails and all that sort of stuff. Continuously. And what I used to do is I'm not one of them ones that had like 20 good years and then it got a bit pitiful and I thought I better go and get some help. It was pitiful at 21. You know, it was threatening to cut my leg off or I'd been injected at this point. And I didn't know any, basically my using consisted more of trying to get clean. You know, from 21 to 38 years I was just trying to get clean, and I went to any lengths to get clean and sober. I went to jail on numerous occasions, but I put myself in there on 3 separate occasions. I went and got caught shoplifting on purpose, give no fix to bowl, so they have to remind me for 3 weeks. I used to use jails like people use detoxes and rehabs, because I desperately wanted to get clean, and what I believed is that drugs and alcohol were my problem. Yeah, and I since now know today that drugs and alcohol aren't my problem. It's this illness, it's my thinking that is my problem, and I've done everything that the justice system could throw at you. I've done counselling, therapy, EMDR, blah, 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 absolutely everything, because I knew there's something weren't right, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I had all the opportunities. You know, I moved out of Luton, I got to know my real mum, who I never knew, and I always thought if I had a good family, because my family I got brought up in a shitty little council estate with a stepmom, blah, 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 blah. None of that stuff makes me an addict or an alcoholic. It's nothing to do with it whatsoever. They're just a set of circumstances. I used to blame all that, though. That's why I did what I did. And I got to move out of Luton. I went to live in this nice posh village, even though that I wasn't very posh at all. But saying that, I'm a no good smack and crackhead. Do you know what I mean? If you had the car and clean clothes on, you was posh to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it didn't take much for me to think of you like that. And I got out of that Luton stuff, and I was still drinking and using every day, but what was happening over the period of time is like the crack in the room wasn't working. I couldn't get a vein anymore. Do you know, it was pitiful, and I'm trying to hide it from everybody, and I'm taking steroids because I'm losing too much weight, and God forbid that you lot knew that I was taking crack. And how would you not know? Do you know, I was running around like a lunatic. Everybody knew. And then what I'd done is, I think I was about 35, and I had another child with this woman, and I tried my goddamn hardest, right, to be a good dad for this child because of the 2 kids that I'd discarded before, you know, and I grew up in that sort of environment myself, and obviously I blamed all that for the way I was, so I thought I was adamant that I weren't going to do it with this child, and I just couldn't do it for love nor money. Like, every want and every desire in my soul to try and be a good dad to this girl, and not to drink and use, it just failed miserably. And I thought, I had this great idea, right, because I'm full of them, that it would be a good idea to leave this woman, right, who stuck by me for 10 years. Now, this is what I do to people that love me, right? I got her on heroin, I got her injecting in her groin, I robbed her mum's life savings, I robbed her dad's nursery, I burgled their house on 3 or 4 occasions, I stole their car, and I don't say any of that because I'm proud of that stuff. This is what I do to people that love me, and I don't even want to do it. And every time I do it, I will sit down and cry, and I will be like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And then the phenomenon of craving will once became paramount. Well, all of a sudden, how I think and feel about you doesn't matter. I just need that money. And if it's there, I'm going to take it. And that is not the person I am, and it wasn't the person I was then. I was just using to overcome a craving beyond my mental control. And I'm glad that got explained to me, because I beat myself up for that for years, of all the stuff that I'd done, and all I ever wanted was to be loved. All I ever wanted was that family, and they give me that, and I just tore through them like the tornado that the book talks about. And I thought it'd be a good idea to leave this beautiful woman and this beautiful child to go back. So these are the lengths I'll go to. You know, in Tradition 3, it says the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using cocaine and all other mind-altering substances. Yeah, be aware, that's just a requirement to sit in this meeting. It isn't a good enough requirement for recovery, because I've had a sincere desire to stop drinking and using since I was 21 years old. I've done all that stuff I was telling you about the jail. I left this woman and this child because I had this clever idea that if I go back to Luton, yeah, where it all started in the first place, it's just fucking insanity, I'll be able to get clean, because it's her fault now why I'm using. Because every time I want to get clean, she still wants to use, and I think it'd be a good idea. And I go back to Luton, and I'm adamant now. I'm going to go to that place that gives you the methadone, and I'm going to get sorted out, and blah blah blah. And I get off, and I get to Luton. I see one of my old pals, and he says, "Oh, Deanbury Park's got 2 on 1. It's banging." I said, "Right, let's go." With a most sincere desire, just leaving the 2 things that I love more than anything, because that's how badly I want to get clean. And at that point, then it was like, you know, it says, on page 30, it says we conceded to our innermost selves of addicts and alcoholics, and I conceded to my innermost self at that moment that I'm a drug addict and I'm an alcoholic, and I'm going to die on the streets of Luton. You know, it's like, I don't know about you lot, but you know, like when I continuously try to stop using, and I continuously fail, and I continuously fail, and I continuously hurt others, it just chips away at my soul, and it just chips away at my spirit, and at that I was just broken. And I got to that, I heard someone say it once in a meeting, and I loved it, and he said, I can't tell you how I feel, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. And that's what I've done. I thought, I'm going to proceed to annihilate myself in any way that I can, so somebody or something would have to intervene, because I haven't got the courage or the balls to kill myself. And that's a lie. I used to think that, right? But every time I thought about killing myself, it'd be like, but what about your daughter? I know today that that was God. God was looking out for me. He was watching me the whole time. He was just getting me ready for the job that he had in store for me to do when I got into Cocaine Anonymous. And that's all in hindsight. And what happened was I got a chance to go to a detox in a treatment centre. Just before that, this is how bad it got, right? When I give up at that point, I was always a guy that could always earn money and always cared a bit about what I looked like, even though, because if I had a pair of Moschino jeans on, right, the same ones for 6 months, filthy, ripped and all that, but I had a pair of Moschino jeans on. Do you know what I mean? It was like deluded, was just like an understatement. And I got to the point where the crack and heroin was more or less out the window. That was for gyro days, because I couldn't even go out grafting anymore. I was begging outside McDonald's in my hometown with them other 2 children that I discarded, walking past me, looking down at me in disgust, and rightly so, and my parents and my aunties and my uncles all walking down, and I'm sitting outside McDonald's drinking as many cans of Kestrel Super as I can get down my neck in a day, because I just wanted to escape my reality so bad. And it didn't matter how they looked at me, right, or what it was that they thought. I couldn't even feel it, because I was just dead, and there was nothing you could think about me that I didn't think 10 times about myself. I was just busted and broken, and I got this opportunity to go to a detox in a treatment centre. And I got to, and I desperately, because I don't know about you, it's like, I just want to get clean. I just want to live normal, right? And then what happens is I go to any limits and I can get clean, I can do detoxes, I'm good at that. And I go and do a detox, and then within 2 or 3 days of getting clean, I remember why it is I used again. Because I'm restless, irritable, discontent, and over the years it gets worse and worse and worse. Whereas before I could go a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it got to the point where it was hours and days, and then I'd get some emotion in me that I didn't even know, and it'd be like, use, done, and I'd just go and use again. And I got to this detox and got kicked out of there, because I do the first thing that most males like myself do, take away the substances, and some girl across the room who's like dribbling into a sick bucket and blowing her nose every 2 minutes smiles at me, and I'm like, yeah, she's cute, and that's I sort of jump into wherever with that one, and then I get kicked out of the detox. But what happened was, something amazing happened when I was in this treatment centre detox, whatever you want to call it. This guy coming from Cocaine Anonymous, and I'll never forget it, never. And this guy come in, and he was everything that I told you that I was, right? He was a proper gangster. He'd used guns, he'd done robberies and all that. He had scars all over his face, tattoos. It's insanity. These are the type of people I used to look up to. And even though I was a petty shoplifter, but I tell you I was a robber and all that, because I robbed one person at a fucking cash point, a 16-year-old student with a broken penknife. All of a sudden, I do robbery. It's some fucking bullshit. And he said, I'm 3 years clean and sober. He said, my life's amazing, and if you're ever in trouble, he said, when you get out of here, get to a meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. Right now, here's where the powerless really started, right? So I hear this, man. I think I've finally met someone else like me who describes to me the solution, like what it is I need to do. You just need to get to Cocaine Anonymous. So I get kicked out of this detox, right? I'm thinking, right, I'm going to one of them meetings. Because I don't know about you lot, right? When you've lived the life that I've lived, like how scummy and horrible it was, yeah, and there's loads of people sitting in here with clean clothes on, smiles on their faces, that I can relate to every single one of you, and you're telling me that you've got a way out, you've got to be fucking stupid not to believe them. Yeah, I didn't have to be mentioned twice when I got to my first meeting, and so I think, right, I'm going to a meeting of Cocaine Anonymous, and I get off the train in Luton, and I'm on my way to this meeting, and all of a sudden my head says, go and get 2 on 1, so I go and get 2 on 1, because I've absolutely got no power to not go and get the 2 on 1, even though I want to go to the meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. So I go and get the 2 on 1, I turn up to the meeting of Cocaine Anonymous, I sit at the back, I cry like a baby, please help me. And I hear, get yourself a sponsor, work the steps, have a spiritual awakening. I think, right, how do I get one of them, because I'm not backwards in going forwards. I'll get me one that night. And he says, are you willing to go to any limps? And I do what any good newcomer would do, and I go, yeah, like that. I ain't got a fucking clue what your any limps means, but I'm going to do it anyway. And he says, will you pray? I said, well, what do you mean pray? He said, do you believe that there's a God? I said, well, yeah, you got one and you lot are clean? Yeah, of course I will. He said, right, in the morning, he said, I want you to pray. He said, I want you to read 2 pages of this big book, and he gave me a big book. I'm sure he gave me the Chinese version, because I couldn't understand fucking one word of it. He said, and I want you to send me a list of 10 things you're grateful for. Can you do that? I thought, what, is that it? I said, no problem. So I get up in the morning and I pray to this God that I don't believe in, asking for a clean and sober day. I read 2 pages of this Chinese big book, and I send him a gratitude list of like 4 things I'm grateful for, because I'm so riddled with self-pity. What have I got to be grateful for? And then by 10 o'clock, I'm in Bury Park scoring 2 on 1. And I phone him up at 11 o'clock, and I'm like, what's going on? I said, you promised me if I do everything you tell me, I never have to drink and use again. I said, I'm using already. He said, yeah, Shane, but you've got to surrender. I said, how do you do that? He said, I can't help you with that. I thought, what? Now, bearing in mind the life that I've lived and where I've come from, how do you surrender? I'm a fighter and I don't even want to be. People say about, we've got like no willpower. My willpower will fucking kill me. Do you know what I mean? I have no, so I had to bounce around the meetings of Cocaine Anonymous for the next 2.5 years, because I'm not stupid. I know there's an answer here, right? And people just keep coming back, And I come back and I kept getting the sponsors. And if you're new here and you think there's a man or a woman in this room that's going to keep you clean and sober, there fucking isn't. Because if my kids and my mum and my dad and all them can't keep me clean and sober, you can bet your bottom dollar there ain't nowhere near they can. Yeah, but what I can do is, if and when you're done and you're ready and you're willing to go to any limps, I will show you how to stay done. I will show you how to get connected to the power and show you how to live a way of life that you never even dreamed of. And I kept coming back. I had about 15 white key rings, 10 sponsors, and And you know, like, it's for me, right, it says in the book, it says, when you can either no longer live with drinking with drinking or without drinking, you will know loneliness as only few do. Yeah, I didn't come here because the drugs were still working. When you're sitting there smoking crack, smoking heroin, and you've got more money than you've ever had, drinking alcohol, and you're still riddled with guilt, shame and remorse, and your past is just smacking you around the head with a baseball bat, and you cannot escape it no more, that's the point where shame needs another way to live. And it got to that point, it was like, I've given up on your 12 steps, because it clearly done. I went through the book with one sponsor once, and he, you know, when he talked about the percentage of those that come to AA, 50% got sober at once, and he said 6%, so I just resigned myself to the fact I'm one of the 94 that ain't going to get it. And it got to that point, so your 12 steps don't work for me, I can't get high anymore, and this is when the magic happened, and I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it now. I hit my knees for the very first time one Sunday morning, and I said my first sincere prayer. I said loads of prayers before then when the sponsors had told me to pray, pray, pray. And I got on my knees and I was like, God, please, if you are there, please, I need you more than anything. And at that moment, he entered my life. And it says in Bill's story, God comes to most men eventually, but his impact on me was sudden and profound. And he entered my life and my heart in a way that is just indeed miraculous at that moment then. Because this is how I know it was God. So I just turned up to a meeting, right, on a Sunday night, the same as what I'd done on 15 other occasions. Yeah, I asked the guy to sponsor me, he says, oh, you wouldn't go anywhere? So I went, yeah, like that. We embarked on this journey, he said, will you do this? We went through the steps fearlessly and thoroughly, and I remember, I'm not going to run through the steps if you haven't got time, but there's something that happened to me on step 3, and I think it's amazing. So we've done the step 3 on 5 days clean, right, and I hit my knees in the morning, and I just had this thought. And I was 5 days clean, right, and this may not sound anything to you lot, but for someone who's drunk and used for 25 years continuously, and if he's not drinking and using, he's thinking about drinking and using, after 5 days I thought, Shane, do you know what? Not only have you not thought about drinking and using for 5 days, you haven't even thought about not drinking and using. And I got down on my knees, I've done this step 3 prayer, and I got up and I've got the feeling now. And I swear to God, it was like I'd taken a pill. I was fucking rushing. I was sitting on my sofa thinking, oh my God, you've lost the plot. Whatever you do, do not tell anyone they're going to lock you up, right? I know today I was having a spiritual experience, right? But my pride wouldn't allow me to tell anyone, right? And then the next morning, the same thing happened, right? And at this point, my sponsor's my life, the poor fellow. I was phoning him 6 or 7 times a day because I know I've latched on to something because I'm 5 days clean and sober for the first time in my life and I'm feeling all right about it. And I said, Mikey, look, please don't laugh at me. This is not a little pride. Like, please don't laugh at me. I said, but every time I get up off my knees after doing that step 3 business, it's like I've taken a pill. Is this normal? He went, yeah, guess what? I said, what? He said, it gets better. I went, fuck off. You know what I mean? I didn't believe it was possible to feel that way clean and sober. My mind told me that being clean and sober would be shit. We whiz through the steps so quickly that I can't even tell you about them. What I will say is, if you're an addict of my variety, yeah, if you stop long enough to try and understand what it is that you're doing, you're probably going to use. Because see them 2.5 years when I was bouncing around it, I wasn't one that got 3 months, 6 months used. I got 2 days, 3 days, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 2 days, 3 days. Was the most I could muster with you, like in this room, with a sponsor, in the book. I'd done 3 step 4s in that time, yeah, and I just still couldn't stop because I couldn't surrender. And we went through the steps so quickly. I was 21 days clean and I was halfway through making my amends. And some lunatic in a meeting asked me to sponsor him, and I phoned my sponsor up. I said, fucking hell, some lunatic. And the funny thing was, it was my sponsor's cousin. I thought, fucking hell. I said, look, Mikey, this lunatic's asked me to sponsor him. Can I sponsor him? He said, your life fucking depends on it, mate. I was like, sweet. So we got that book out. Now, what I've done is, what I've realised now is you don't need to understand these steps to work them. You need to work them to understand them. Because I didn't think I'd learned anything in them steps, and I sat down with another man, and the power of God entered him, and I opened up that book, and I explained to him just like my sponsor did. Real simply, no messing about, and I picked up my 3-year chip a few months ago, and 10 days later, that fella rolled up to the meeting and picked up his 3-year chip. So don't let anyone tell you that you ain't clean enough to go and help others. If you're as selfish and self-centered as I am, you need to be thinking, and my book says, our whole lives as ex-problem drinkers depends on our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs. Yeah? And at the end of the day, it isn't me sponsoring them. It's me, and it's my sponsor, and it's his sponsor, and anything I don't know, I'm phoning up, well, what do we do on that step 4 stuff? What's that column 3 again? And I'm doing this with a sponsor in the room, like the power of all 3 of us. It was amazing. And I continue to do that. I got told to get involved in service. I've been involved with service since I got here. I'm working with a newcomer at least once a week. Yeah, he says the whole life of ex-problem drinkers depends on our constant thought of others, not when I've got a couple of hours spare on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I'm not here no more to stay clean and sober. And if that's what you think we do here, yeah, that's not. Because so being clean and sober is a byproduct of how I live. Yeah, I need to feel good. It says in the vision for you, do you have a sufficient substitute? It says yes, we have. The reason I do everything it is that I do because I need to feel good. I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic. I like getting high. I absolutely love the effect produced by the 12 Steps of Cocaine Anonymous. I get involved in service, I help lots of guys, I'm the chair of the H&I committee, I'm the chair of the F&E committee. Now I don't tell you that stuff, yeah, to impress you, because I'm still as sick as fuck doing all that stuff. Yeah, I pray and I meditate every single morning. I have not missed it one day in the 3 years, 2 months that I've been here. I send the gratitude list every day. I don't do as much inventory as I should. I speak to my sponsor regularly, and I'm still nuts. But do you know what? I feel good being nuts. I've had to deal with my mum dying in recovery, relationship breakups, homelessness, losing jobs, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. And not once. My mum died, right? Check this out for the power of this program, right? My mum died. I was sitting in the hospital holding her hand as she died. And do you know what? Not even did the fact that my mind didn't tell me to drink and use, it didn't even tell me to drop my program out. I went home and I wrote inventory. And I got up the next morning and I phoned my sponsor and I spoke to him. And then that night I was working with a new guy. And on a funeral, I was at the funeral for the afternoon, and on the Thursday night I was doing a share. Because God is good, he gives me stuff to do when I need to be doing it. And I'm like, I don't really want to do this, but if God's putting it in my path, I'm going to do it. As a result of that, I got my daughter back, and them 3 kids that I told you that I discarded and who I annihilated, I have all 3 of them children back in my life today. They all tell me they love me, and they all tell me they're proud of me. My dad shows me off in the pub. Check out my son, look, he helps people and all that. It's beautiful. I spent my whole life, right, trying to get what it was that I thought I needed and failed miserably and ended up with fuck all. Do you know what I do today? I just give. I give to my kids, I give to my dad, I give to you lot, I give to this fellowship, I give to my job. And as a result of the giving, I get fucking loads. My life is so full today. I've got a car outside that's legal, it's mine. I've got a credit card in my pocket that's got my fucking name on it, can you believe it? I've got a phone that I paid the bill for at least 3 years. I don't owe a penny to nobody. I've got a wardrobe full of nice clothes. I have a shower every day. I've got clean boxer shorts on. You know, that stuff, it might not impress you, but it fucking impresses the fuck out of me, man. It really does. But all that is like the most important thing, the best gift that I have is the ability to deal with life on life terms today. It doesn't matter what happens to me. It doesn't matter what you throw at me. I know, mate, that I never have to drink and use again. And not only do I never have to drink and use again, I never have to feel how I used to feel. Because drinking and using don't scare me so much. I lived that for 25 years. But what petrifies me is feeling how I felt for 25 years. And that's what's on offer here. You never have to feel that way again. You can live a life beyond your wildest dreams, and all you got to do, and if you're one of them ones that keeps coming back and keeps getting them white keyring, please keep coming back and keep praying. Because it says in step 3, when we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. And it was only when I said that sincere prayer, when I had nowhere else to go, it says it, doesn't it? It's only in the last analysis that here he is found. Yeah, because believe me, and you talk about sponsor and fellowship and meetings and all that stuff, that's all imperative afterwards. I need some power in my life to even embark on this journey. Yeah, and people talk about step 1. There's more God in step 1 than there is in any other step. Because if God wouldn't have entered into my life, I wouldn't have even made it back into another meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. He gave me the willingness. He broke me. He was the one that allowed me to embark on this 12-step journey. So if you're one of them ones that keeps coming back, please just pray. Please ask God, when's it your turn? When's it going to be done? I've gone on a bit, but thanks for letting me share. I hope someone got something from that. And if you didn't, well, I've got another day clean and sober, so thanks. Cheers.